Councillors, and to those that are joining us today, well done, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas. It's the last ordinary council meeting for the year, 9th of December 2021. I ask Councillor Martin to do the opening karakia.
Kia ora koutou, nau mai haere mai, welcome everyone. Kia ora te Māori no, kia whakapapa painamu te moana, he huarahi mā tātou i te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou, ia tātou katoa, hui e taia ki e. Mene kirihi me tete everyone. If you're not sure what that means, it's Merry Christmas in Te Reo Māori, and for those of you who need to see it visually, you can see it 48 times on the new flags that are in the Hokitika CBD. So by Christmas, you should have that saying down pat.
Thank you. Move on to item 2 of the agenda, which is the apologies. I have an apology from Councillor Davidson, I have an apology from Deputy Mayor Carruthers, and I have an apology from Councillor Huff. Are there any other apologies? Someone like to move? They've been accepted. Councillor Neal, thank you. The second. Councillor Martin, those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Move on to item number 3 of the agenda, which is the declarations of interest. Documents have been circulated by Teams. It's also here on the table. If you can just circulate it around. If there's anything that leaps out of today's agenda that looks like you have an interest in, it's different to the public, make sure you write it down. Keeps it nice and clean. Move on to item 4 of the agenda, and it's urgent items not on the agenda. Now, there is an item that is going to be added, which is the adoption of the Westland Holdings Limited annual report. The purpose of the report is to present the Westland Holdings annual report to council as a shareholder. And from a timing point of view, it has to be done today. The reason it wasn't on the agenda was that they've been waiting for the auditors to finally get round to present to complete the report form. So we're on to number 5 on the agenda, which is the minutes of the previous meetings. I'll move to the minutes of the ordinary council meeting on 25th of November 2021. The minutes have been circulated. There's been no requests for changes. Are there any requests? Okay. I'll invite a councillor to move that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 25th of November 2021 be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Councillor Cogan, thank you. Councillor Neal, those in favour? Yep. Thank you. I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed ordinary council meeting minutes of the 25th of November 2021. Move on to the next item of the agenda, which is the action list. And for those watching and for councillors, it's on pages 6 to 9 of your agenda, and it'll be presented by the Chief Executive.
Yeah, good afternoon, Your Worship and councillors. I'll just take you through the individual actions one by one and take questions at the end. So the Canary School Cycle Trail crossing, so no changes to that at present. Still planning to celebrate the opening in the new year with the Canary School. Speed limit registration review stage 2. We will be going out, as discussed previously, consultation around February stage next year for further updates. Ross Chinese Gardens flooding issues, so the resource consent has been passed by affected parties. I understand that negative feedback on that, and from there we're still waiting the final resource consent completion from Regional Council. We have met with the Ross community in terms of the project stage. We have a draft MOU that was completed today for review, and then we will get signatures along with a road closure process organised with the community group. Mara Gardens, no progress on that. I understand it's going out for tender as we speak. Revel Street trial, stage 2. The budget will be provided as part of the CE pack, but the works program has been completed. There's still a new table to be put on the new pavement extension by Take Note. That'll be done next week or so. All Christchurch Road resealed. As discussed previously, final scope of the works is still to be completed. No further progress on that one. As indicated by Council last month, put on hold works for both HQ, Waitara building, and waiting for a strategic direction from councillors in terms of next way forward for that. We're keen to obviously progress this early in the new year and have workshops planned with Joseph's and Associates to kick some of that off. Point 8 is the same as above. Road maintenance actions. Footpath plan, my 10 is still in the planning stage. Speed limit review, as previously discussed, has been tabled before, and we'll keep it on the table, NZTA or Katahi. And the report has been completed for railway terrace, so that process is underway. Standing committees membership list has been completed. And resource consent correspondence update to council. So that's still being worked through with the relevant resource consent applicant. Planning managers intending to have a one-on-one conversation with that applicant. Happy to take any questions you wish.
Thanks, Simon. Open for discussion, Paul. No questions, thanks. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Worship. Simon, thanks for the report. In relation to Revel Street Trial Stage 2, the poles, when are they proposed to go in and be installed, and the lights in the street?
So as reported last, the funding doesn't cover the installation of those poles, so we have to revisit as part of seeking further funding. So under the lighting capital program as well, it's not covered in that because it's an additional late item added. So we don't have a budget to put the poles up at this stage.
We've got the poles, we've procured the poles, have we?
I'm not aware of that. I don't, Scott shaking his head, so I don't know where that's at. Any of the details, sorry, Councillor, I can come back to you on that.
That'd be great, thank you.
Councillor Hartshall.
No, nothing from me, Your Worship.
Councillor Newman.
Thank you.
Councillor Coe.
No, nothing from me.
No, thank you. I invite a council to move that the updated action list be received. Councillor Neal, thank you. Councillor Martin, those in favour?
Aye.
Now we're going to move the urgent item to be heard now, followed by the Western Holdings update. So the urgent item is the adoption of the Western Holdings annual report, and be presented by Joanne and Chris. Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you, Your Worship. So again, apologies, needing to make this a late item. Audit have really struggled this year with not being able to bring staff in from overseas, so we have staff shortages, which have meant they're only quite late. And we received the final audit sign-off yesterday, believe it or not, so sorry for the lateness. So what we had done is prepared a presentation, which I think you had in advance, to run through the results from each of the subsidiary companies as well as Western Holdings in short form. But we do have a requirement to provide the whole annual report to you, so that's what we've done. And we are looking for council to receive the Western Holdings annual report for the period to 30 June 2021.
Thank you. We'll take the all three and move around the table. Paul.
I don't have any questions because I've just seen this.
How did the AGMs go?
Fine, thank you. Yeah, reasonably quick and without too much fanfare, so they were good.
And the only question I had, well, I have a few, but probably not for here, but one is the bands, the salary bands, and where you can identify a person, should that be public?
It's not a requirement, and sometimes people do like their privacy because they've negotiated a salary which wouldn't normally be out of the arena, I would have thought. So the requirement to report is as provided in the annual report. Nothing
on that. There is a requirement to have banding. Generally, if there is less than 5 within one band, you move it to the next. However, at an executive level, it needs to be a separate.
So what's your question? Should they be identified?
Yes. Well, no, I'm not saying they should be. From that report, it's very easy to determine who that person is and what their salary range is.
And unfortunately, that, as Leslie said, that is a requirement to lay it out in this so there's no choice.
West Roads is quite easy because it's in bands, but there's more than one person, so just want to make sure we've got
breaks. Public accountability.
Yeah.
Councillor Archer.
No, nothing from me again. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Neville.
Thank you, Jade, for the work you've done over the year.
Councillor Cogan.
Yeah, no, nothing from me. You guys, considering the circumstances we've been in as well with the whole COVID situation, have actually, done a really diligent job on carrying things through the way as well as you have.
Francois.
No, just appreciate the complexities of audits. Thanks on that. So,
I can report that Simon and I attended 3 annual general meetings this morning. We congratulated the board of Western Holdings on picking up a crisis situation 8 months ago, coming up with a strategic plan, and then sticking to it, and then delivering, which is even more outstanding. We felt that done a tremendous job in the circumstances, and looking forward to what happens next year. Any other questions? Okay, I'll invite Council to move that Council receive the Western Holdings Limited annual report dated 30th of June 2021 as tabled. Councillor Coburn, thank you. Councillor Martin, those in favour?
Aye.
Move on to the Western Holdings Limited update to Council. And invite Chris to the presentation.
So in preparation for the meeting, we were a little unsure whether what would be completed, so we've done a little bit of summary, and it probably breaks it down in a way that's a bit easy for you to follow for both for Western Holdings and for the two subsidiary companies. So we'll just work through the presentation if that's all right. You make it work. Okay. So introduction to us, I think you know who we are, and just our objectives at the bottom there to grow and protect our communities, our economy, and our natural environment. And then we have the updates. So first of all, we hopefully work. So Western Holdings. So we have been quite successful in creating more opportunities for local directors. We've got a cadet or an intern onto the board of Westroads, and it was nice to be through person this morning at the AGM. And we've appointed Mari Louise Take-On to the board of Destination Westland. Chris Ray will be stepping down, so Mara Louise is taking her place. And we've also had replaced Bryce Thompson from the board of West Roads with Robert Caldwell, who's a great mouth person. So it's nice to have those local people coming through. And hopefully we're going to be building the pool of directors available for governance positions into the future. We have rebalanced Destination Westland, which was our goal, if you remember, from about 18 months ago, when things were looking a little bit sad. And as you'll see when we come up, we've been quite successful in delivering our objectives for Destination Westland. So that's a little bit hard to see. I might put it onto my screen. So these are the consolidated figures, which you would have seen also in the annual report. And as you'll see, income and profit are down for the year, and the main reason for that is that West Roads had a less than ideal year in terms of their result. It has been offset to some extent by a good result for Destination Westland for the year. So we'll go through the two subsidiary companies now.
Okay, so we'll start with Destination Westland, some highlights around some of the things as you know. We do through some different rebalance, refocus to try and broaden our income streams and really get focused on our core strategy. And these are some of the highlights. Wildfoods this year was a really, really good success with good weather and good numbers. And I think this year it's even going to be better. So we're really excited to be able to bring on 2022. We have, as you're also aware, purchased land recently to develop some housing. We're underway with that now, which is really exciting. So we'll get that done early in the calendar year, at least starting anyway. So that's exciting. The airport terminal, hopefully you guys have been down to have a look. It's looking great, all finished, and we've even started to have the odd external using space for conferences and those sorts of things. So really, really good to have that as an asset for us locally. And yeah, Tafiki has now been operating for some time. We have an opportunity to expand that further. So some really positive successes for Destination Westland. There's many more, those are the highlights. The numbers again a little bit small for you to see, but just to work through some of those highlights. I think the thing that I point out the most is it is a great result, although our income stream from last year disappeared on us with airports and teleports. We've actually managed to deliver a similar result from an income perspective, yet with the rebalance, managed our costs really effectively and returned a reasonably significant profit. Now, there was a reasonable underline that we did successfully achieve some grants and other things to help us through this year, but there's still income. So really, really positive. And I think it's the first time that we are doing some pension payment through to West Roads and some holdings from Destination Westland. So I think really strong rebound. And I guess the most successful thing for me was the stable leadership of the chief executive. Focus on the strategy, the directors stepping back into governance and to risk and really focusing on strategy and allowing the management team to run the business and manage their run and done awesome jobs. So good result for decisions.
You'll notice that they give me West Roads this time. So yes, Joanne's mentioned earlier on, it's been a bit of a challenging year for West Roads with the COVID lockdowns that's been happening. But they have successfully regained the Western Council roading contract. Yeah, everyone's aware of that. Secures a bit of a long-term income stream. There's forward work in Christchurch at the moment, and there's a good margin over there in the work. Still not brilliant. It's a mock-up, but it is getting better. There's some risk ahead with the Three Waters, which could be a bit of a problem, but they're doing a bit of a strategy day out there today and working around some of those issues. And they are actively diversifying the work in Canterbury, just to try and reduce having the one main customer. So yeah, look forward to that. The figures, yeah, they don't print too good a picture. So showing a loss there of 495. Again, that just contributes to the lockdown, COVID lockdowns that happened. There were some shovel-ready projects that were meant to happen that weren't so shovel-ready. Of course, they kept employees on out there waiting for those to eventuate, but didn't. Yeah, that's unfortunately caused us to be where we are there. They have done some resizing, which is those comments you'll see out the sides in this last quarter. which is effectively $200,000 a year, so it doesn't actually show the figures that you can get on page. And the second lockdown that's happened is also giving them a hard time, but they're expecting to bounce back in 4 weeks.
Right, questions? Paul? Councillor Hartwell?
Yeah, you're there. Just wondering what the diversification is in Christchurch, Chris.
Basically, they're just trying to find, so they've identified that they've got too much reliance on one customer, so they're actively trying to find other customers rather than focus on the Christchurch City Council.
Yep, okay. Yep.
No, I believe, I guess, to see that Westroads has improved since the interview results. They're trend continues. Thank you.
Councillor Kogan?
I just think there's no surprises, to be honest. Really, it is what it is. But it's good to see that looking forward, we've already stabilised some good contracts coming back and hopefully bounce back out of this as quickly as we can. So, you know, good job to Destination Western and Westroads with you as well.
Just the circumstances.
I'd like to just reiterate the fact that the 3 Western Holdings directors went on to the Destination Western board and received no directors' fees for 18 months. It's a contribution to recognition of the fact that we had a great hole in the ground, and I really want to personally thank you all for it. It is appreciated. Bryce Thompson, 23 years on the Australian board, and as Simon and I said to him this morning, he's been a rock. He's always been Bryce. He's always there, and he's been a very steady influence, and we'll miss Bryce. Chris, you jumping in onto Destination Western, thank you for that, and I realise that you've now stepped back, and understand Joanne steps back next year. That no payment of fees was something that I wanted to mention, and I also wanted to really thank you for taking on board the councillor's desire to see people from the coast filtered onto the boards over a period of time. Yes, and you now have 3 there at the moment. Well done. I think that's excellent. Are there any other comments that people wish to make? Okay, so let's have a look at it. Would the council like to move the presentation from Chairperson, Chris Scorley, Director, and Chris Ray, Director of Western Holdings Limited, be received? Councillor Neal, thank you. Councillor Kogan, those in favour? Aye. So, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Move on now to the next item of the agenda, which is information technology and information management update. With we have Peter Oliver and Richard Morris, our information manager, to present. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today, to give you an update on the information technology and information management functions here at the Council. The IT team are tasked with the provision of IT services, that's the computers, servers, hardware and software, whilst the IT team are tasked with managing the information that utilises these systems. We believe that IT and IM is now so integral to the organisation that we need to continue to invest in it. Thank you.
IT.
I'm sure we can agree that at Western District Council we have some great staff who are a real asset to the organisation. We also have a large quantity of physical assets of considerable value across the district, ranging from water treatment plants to bridges. The third asset we have is the potentially underestimated one of the information that we hold, without which we would struggle to operate. We have a vision that information is managed in a way that reflects its status as a valuable asset. Today, briefly, we would like to tell you about what we have been doing, what we are currently working on, and what are our plans for the future.
What we've been doing. The purpose of our IT team is to provide robust, fit-for-purpose technology solutions available 24/7 for users, customers, and stakeholders. The event of COVID has had a major impact on how we work out with operating. Working from home has now become a reality for all. Unified communication. The phone system we were using was outdated and broadcast is used today. Has been replaced with Zoom phones. Zoom has now been adopted as a unified communications platform. Tools covering voice and video calling, meeting rooms, and collaboration are all used across the organisation and we're performing well. Systems are now part of our normal everyday business. The new internet and knowledge has been deployed to bolster information available to users and resource transfer systems. The intranet functions as a central hub for navigating WDC systems and is integrated with the IT service desk and knowledge base. We use enterprise-grade virus software across all our PCs and servers, including an additional component which should stop any ransomware attacks before they can do any harm. All WDC users participate in email phishing training. Training is designed to familiarise users with common email threats and help them to avoid introducing malicious content. Brief assessments are part of each training campaign and allow IT to identify users that may require additional training and guidance. Multi-factor authentication is the single most important step in mitigating cybersecurity risks. Multi-factor authentication has been implemented for all high-risk accounts and for most user accounts on the WDC Microsoft tenancy. Further work is planned to strengthen the MFA across additional systems. Challenges of 2021 made work in this area increasingly important. While we're well positioned in this space, the team has been working on a number of improvements to make the networking system more resilient and unplanned outages, as well as improve the availability and flexibility of systems for users working remotely. The asset replacement program focused on providing all users with laptops and decommissioning in-flight equipment that has been running through this year and is scheduled to be completed before the end of 2021. Asset management. The provision of mobiles and laptops has been improved. The system is now faster and more consistent and provides improved security and visibility of transfer assets. Cloud adoption. The new Western District Council Microsoft 365 has been seen to implement. The tenancy provides cloud-hosted options and integration with core services such as email, file storage, and sharing, collaboration tools, and more.
Information management, being a new function, have undertaken a phase of consolidation and information gathering. This has involved a lot of discovery, as we've tried to find out exactly what information we actually hold across a variety of systems and locations. This has formed the basis of an audit, which is continually being reviewed and updated. During this audit, we developed our retention and disposal schedule, and were able to identify a large number of files, both electronic and physical, which were no longer required, served no purpose, and we did not need. These were sent for secure destruction. At this stage, we also identified a number of documents which can be viewed as historical and could not be disposed of. These are now safely catalogued and stored in purpose-built facilities in Christchurch at the Iron Mountain facility. These files can very easily be retrieved on demand. We have created and adopted by the exec team a number of internal policies relating to information management. These have included approved systems, digital communications, acceptable use policy, and privacy policies, amongst others. These policies have driven the creation of standard operating procedures for information management. For example, we now have formal procedures for given scenarios. All this work is being undertaken to ensure that we comply not only with best practice, but with current legislation, which itself has gone through some changes. The Privacy Act 2020 has impacted the organisation, and we have been providing training to all staff on privacy and our responsibilities.
The current focus. Resilience and flexibility. Improving resilience in systems in our operating environment is a key objective. Updates in technology and approach provide new opportunities to protect against unplanned and malicious events outside while increasing flexibility of users. Security. The IT threat landscape is constantly evolving. All IT operations have an impact on overall security and protection of council information assets and infrastructure. Work to assess our current security position and assessment of security impacts for new projects will remain a priority. Cloud adoption. The introduction of cloud technologies continues to move forward. The use of cloud solutions where appropriate can support IT objectives, including improved functionality, flexibility, and resilience. User experience. Key part of technology solutions is a valuable user experience. The team will be working to integrate user experience considerations to any new systems, as well as improvements and updates to existing platforms to continuously improve the experience for users. The focus on self-service is a key part of the strategy, providing users with information they need when they need it. Council users have access to a number of systems and technology tools. These tools often provide functionality that is not immediately adopted, or users are not prepared to take advantage of it. Working closely with the information management team, IT is focused on enabling the organisation to leverage the extensive functionality in both existing and new technology solutions. As a data-rich organisation, Council stores and presents data and information to a number of end users. It is important to ensure information is professionally presented and validated so users can find what they need and have the confidence in its validity.
On a practical and tangible level, we are working on a number of projects in information management. Public forms. The organisation has a large number of paper-based forms. Some of these are public-facing and some are internal only. Attached to each form is some procedure or process that is triggered once it is submitted. We are digitising these forms and in doing so, reviewing each process to build in efficiencies and automation where possible. By creating digital processes, we are better able to monitor processes and report on performance. We have purchased a market-leading document management system, and using this platform are starting to migrate documents to it. This brings a vast number of improvements over previous solutions and allows us to control and monitor our information assets with greater detail. Migration is an ongoing process, as there is a huge volume of data to be checked and imported correctly. We are starting the digitisation of physical files, with many of the council's old rolled plans from across the district now being easily available to staff. The next phase of this is considerably larger, as we tackle the digitisation of the vast array of property files, with a view to making these quickly and easily available to not only staff, but the public also. We have run basic training to all staff in an effort to raise the profile of information management and introduce these new systems and technologies. The management of change and the training of staff is in itself a large piece of work and is an ongoing task as we roll out new features as required.
Future focus, what will we do in the future? Resilience. In the new year, we'll be developing a business continuity plan and completing our IT strategy. Cloud adoption, our future plans are to make us more resilient. To make us more resilient will be for more focus on cloud adoption, as and when appropriate. We currently have several cloud-based systems in use, building consents, e-roads, proxy click, concern, exchange, just to name a few. One of the things holding us back on cloud adoption is, for core software, is the lack of redundancy. There's only one fibre link out of Western, which means if that fibre link goes, we're dead to work. So we've got to look at the other options. We're currently investigating the option of a satellite connection for failover. That could be quite high speed satellite connections. Cyber security. We all know in the current environment that we are all potential targets for the scams. Here at the council, the friendly phishing training is ongoing. All new staff being set on programs. We're also looking at doing a vulnerability check on our network to see what we need to do better. Data quality presentation. This is always an ongoing issue. We're constantly looking at quality of our data and how it can be improved. One major project for next year will be upgrading our cemetery data and improve its presentation. We'll also be looking at our GIS tools to see what we can do. Technology refresh and deployment. This is just looking at all our current network equipment and reviewing, upgrading, replacement switches, UPS, all those sort of things. They all need to be checked to make sure they're current and doing the job as well.
Working closely with IT, we are working on a digital-first approach. All new processes and procedures are being designed from a digital-first viewpoint, with many forms of processes being born digital and never seen paper. Our solutions are ready to move to the cloud as and when IT has provisioned that connectivity. By digitizing processes, we actually make ourselves more resilient to staff changes, more transparent to audit trails, and more able to operate remotely where required. Just as soon as physical limitations allow, we plan to provision self-service kiosks at the front counter and other locations as required. These will provide fast and efficient access to forms and information for our ratepayers. As more and more of these processes are digitized, we publish them online via our website, where we are able to integrate with existing systems, including our GIS and mapping systems, rates database, and payment gateways. Our approach is that if a transaction can be done in person, it should be able to be achieved online. This will be a huge benefit for our more remote customers. Western District Council is subject to the requirements of the Lagoima Act, and Lagoima requests can be very time-consuming and costly to fulfill. Often requests are for information that, if it were already available online, would never have been asked for. In the future, it is hoped that we can make the majority of our information, in the form of documents, minutes of meetings, etc., automatically searchable and available to the public. This is in the spirit of transparent operation and will hopefully reduce inquiries and make our decision-making process easier to engage with. Technology progresses at an incredible rate, and the landscape of IT and IM is continually changing. What we are doing is preparing the organisation to deal with changing requirements and challenges. We are being as proactive as we can, being careful not to be at the cutting edge of technology, which is a dangerous place to be, but certainly not far behind it. We hope to report back to Council on a regular basis our progress in our mission. We're very happy to take questions.
Thanks, Richard and Peter. You're the classic heroes in behind the scenes that no one sees. Let's open the discussion. Paul.
Yeah, I'm about half a notch above Luddite, but I do recognise though that one of the risks of IT is putting all your eggs in one basket. And so I think that's what I'm hearing in here is that you're spreading that risk with the cloud and the server. So what we have to have a percentage.
I'll take that question. Yes, we are not putting all our eggs in one basket. In some respects, we're going for a co-location type solution, where we do have servers on site, and we have very extensive backups. But we can also, by moving things into the cloud, rebuild.
And the cloud makes it more resilient. I mean, it means that if this building falls over, all those functions are in the cloud. Still available. I mean, it's even possible these days. But we will always have in-house service through some of the work that can't.
Could I just, not qualify, but just add, if there are any technical questions regarding security, this might not be the best forum to discuss that. But we will happily take those questions offline in the confidential section.
So do you have a percentage split, you know, for how much goes into the cloud, how much is on the server?
Just what's as and when it's appropriate for the work house. And we're not jumping there just because it's there.
I have quite a few questions, probably get into the detail, so we won't go there, but does council actually have a CRM, like a customer relationship management tracking? Because to me, as an outs, you know, when you email council, you know, you hear the classic, you know, we emailed council 3 months ago, right? We heard nothing, you know, this is hypothetical, we've heard nothing back. You know, is there a CRM that exists so people know, oh, on that day, you know, John Smith was emailed by this staff member?
Built into our core financial system, which is Magic, IGQ, is a ticketing service, if you like, for customer inquiries, which captures emails and phone calls. So if a task comes in, it can be loaded into that and then allocated to staff.
It's not a customer.
It's not a full.
We haven't done that. We've got to register all our customers. And what we deal with them over, but it's not full client CRM.
Should we have a CRM for an organisation that's this big and this complex?
So to answer your question, within the Magic system, there is a potential that we could use it better. Make sure that all inquiries are loaded into that system, so that we actually have that log of all the engagements that we had with customer X. What's that question?
Could I ask a question on that? And I don't know if it's possible, but with our new website, we're able eventually to have a portal. Is that something that could be tied in with that sort of portal?
Could easily be, yeah.
One of the next stages, as technology allows, is to have each of our customers, our ratepayers, with their own credentials to log into our site and see the status of their building application, their dog permit, or their inquiry about the broken street lamp.
You can also do things like lawyers might have a statement about that's setting up a lamp, they can just log and get their own stuff to pull it off there. But secure log to do it.
Because kind of what I was getting at, I think, is this is all fine. And what this is actually really good internal controls. But in terms of interfacing with the customers, the ratepayers, you know, anyone that inquires to council, that's sort of where the rubber hits the road. So like the Zoom, you know, the phone network, you know, is all great. And then you run a model through it of, well, let's say you try and ring from the outside. You know, so it may work, and it sounds like there's fantastic internal systems, which is awesome. Oh no, I know it will, but it's like that whole approach is when people contact us, is it tracked? Do we know they've contacted us? Do we have something that reminds someone to follow up? That's, you know, in terms of us as councils, we don't hear anyone write to us and say, oh, how secure is your historical archives vault? You know, they say, hey, I didn't hear back from X, you know, so have we got good systems in that space?
I think there is technology. We have technology to support that feature, if you like. And it is down to a use case scenario for individual members of staff. I'm not trying to pass the buck, but literally if I am emailed directly by a customer, it ought to be down to me to make sure I've saved that email against that customer.
doesn't always happen.
Yeah. Human
If
nature.
it's
and
not sort of a service request system, we do have a record of it, and it's also the follow-up, so we can have that as well.
Plenty, but we haven't got the time. Thank you, though.
Councillor Hatchell.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen. It's you're the unsung heroes in the background, especially with me when I must be one of your better customers. It's good to be good at something. But no, thanks a lot, and keep up the good work.
Councillor Hart. Sorry, Councillor Neal.
Thank you. Just one question, the kiosk you're talking about when the public come in, they'll use, will there be really help for them?
The intention is
Like
that we would initially offer these up in public spaces, like the area downstairs, such that if a customer came in to say, I would like to apply for X, Y, and Z, our customer service staff will say, step to one side, I'm going to show you how you can do that yourself.
So yes, we put it in our so we can actually set up a computer. It's in the bag range of what we're going to do.
Councillor Carey.
That probably the only question I was going to ask on behalf of our ratepayers is around that public portal that I'm referring them to with if they have any service requests that, if they even have the ability to be able to come into the main county area and be able to, when they get told, you're better to put it onto a service request, be able to actually do it downstairs. Because some people are not confident about actually using that, and we all know that it is the best way.
Well, we do need to cater for all walks of life. And from a technology perspective, we need to cater for the lowest common denominator. But by just offering these technological options means that if we consider someone way down the past, do they really need to drive up here to fill in a form and hand it over when they could actually just log onto a computer and potentially have a kiosk set up, like someone had to do? These are a few future-looking things, but we aim high.
As the lowest denominator, what you do?
Well, I believe he's referring to technology.
Just in relation to the digitisation of records, we did discuss this a while back. What happens to the paper records?
The ones once scanned, depending on its criteria within our retention and disposal schedule, which is actually taken from a model from Alvin, the Association of Local Government Information Managers, which was developed with Archives NZ. We can destroy some if it meets the criteria. If it's a transactional document that was printed out, and we don't need it because we've got it electronically, with that. But the intention is that they will be stored securely at Iron Mountain, temperature controlled.
Oh, right. This is the place in Christchurch.
Yes. Yeah. So there are quite strict criteria we can't throw out. We do. From an information management perspective, the less information we have, the easier my job is, but we do have to keep it.
There are time frames, different things. Some can be destroyed after 10 years, financial records, I think 7 years. But there are certain things that we have to keep forever, no matter,
And the paper,
yeah,
because we kept it on. Okay, that's reassuring. Okay, and the digitisation, does that extend or will it extend to the museum?
not at this stage.
I believe they are looking at their own system. We have offered to integrate with ours, the licensing that we've got, the product that we have. But ours is very much for business organisational documents as opposed to historical photographs. So I think that debate is still open as to which route they go down. But happy to discuss and offer support.
Our biggest focus for digitalisation is our property files, so that it becomes very easy for any consumer web-based search online, hopefully in the future state.
Sorry, and just one more question. It's just got the bear of me, so I've just got to say it. I really hate that friendly fishing training. Is that rare, you know, is it an absolute necessity?
It is.
Yeah.
The security of our system, we can't afford any virus on system. Consider it.
Cyber attacks have increased significantly in the last 6 months.
We do not want to be the next DHB from the North Island.
No.
Julie,
I guess we just, you know, like I know even off any of my other devices on my own laptop, I mean, you do get used to what you should and shouldn't be getting into, and within doubt, I always just delete straight away anyhow. So
you're one of a lot of people. That person simply
on that basis, I could invite you to move the presentation from the Information Technology Manager and the Information Manager at Western District Council be received. Can I have a second? Councillor Archer, thank you. Those in favour? Peter and Richard, thank you very much. Very, very interesting. Good take for me. Let's move on to the next item of the agenda, which is the Taipatini West Coast 2050 strategy. It's on, for those that are zoomed in, it's on pages 10 to 27 of your agenda, and it'll be presented by the Chief Executive.
Yes, good afternoon, Worship Councillors again. I'll just very lightly touch on the report, then I'll pass to Johnny to take you through the details when he's online. So obviously, this is part of a West Coast-wide economic strategy looking at as far forward as 2050. The Development West Coast started this engagement back in 2020 with the view to have a reset of the future of the West Coast, primarily due to the impacts of COVID and other regulation that's coming through local government, after government at the moment. So Johnny, I'll pass you straight over to you now if you want to take us through the rest of the plan.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Can you all hear me okay? Is that all right? Yep. Right, excellent. Look, tēnā tātou katoa, ka mihi ki mana whenua, Ngāti Waiwai, me Ngāti Māhake, Pautini Ngaitahu, tēnā koutou, Ngāi Kaunihira tēnā koutou, te koromatua tēnā koe, ki tātou e tau nei, ka nui taku mihi. So look, thank you all for the opportunity to present to your council today and for the privilege of being able to assist in the development of this strategy. I'm really presenting today on behalf of Development West Coast, who have obviously convened the process to develop and deliver this strategy on behalf of the coast. But I do so as kind of an independent party, if you like. So I'm actually based up in Nelson, but I work heavily in economic and community development, and so have been involved in the strategy process and have had the privilege of meeting and working with many of you over that period of time. I'm only going to make a brief comment because we're really taking the strategy as read, and I would prefer to just make best use of your time and answer any particular questions you may have, but I will outline why we're here. So I just want to start by acknowledging the many strengths that exist in the region currently, and I think the very special place that you all call home and care deeply about. I've thoroughly enjoyed spending time down on the coast and with you all. I'm really impressed and enthused about the level of untapped potential that's been identified through this strategy and the significant opportunities to further economic development and prosperity in the region. But I also want to acknowledge that I know there are many, many challenges facing you all, and it's been a particularly tough time in the last couple of years, and also that there is a significant amount of reform coming down the pipeline that will have real implications on your community. And so I think with that in mind, the strategy today is being tabled as an opportunity to communicate a collective set of priorities for economic development right across the coast. It has a 30-year horizon, so it's a generational shift. It's a long-term plan. It will act as an enduring blueprint for decision making. That blueprint should be solid and enduring for that generation, but no doubt the actions and priorities and things that are focused on over time will need to shift as things change and you navigate your way into the future.
But I think it's to highlight that this strategy is a proactive move. It's not a reactive one. It's about demonstrating to potential investors, and we think here about potential private investors into the coast, but of course also central government partners. It's about demonstrating strategic, clearly thought out priorities for the coast to help unlock investment into the region, into jobs and economic development. That's what this is really about. So it's a strategy, by the coast and of the coast, but it's also a strategy that's communicating the economic future of the coast to outside parties and investors as well, to help unlock those opportunities together. And I think, I've learned a lot through this process, and I've made many observations, and I think there's a healthy level of skepticism on the coast about more plans and more strategies. And so I do want to acknowledge that the words on those pages are only as good as the actions that follow, and there is a real need to get some wins on the board and build momentum off the back of the strategy launch. And so really today it's in that spirit that our invitation, led by His Worship the Mayor, is for the council to endorse the strategy ahead of its public release, to show that unified support, and to signal your confidence in the strategy in a way that backs it and enhances it as a tool to deliver better outcomes and investment for the wider West Coast region. So look, with that in mind, I'm really happy to take any questions that may be of use to you, and just like to close by making note of thanks to all of you who contributed and participated in the engagement process that got the strategy to this point, and ensure that it's a really strong and effective platform for the coast moving forward. And I'm very much looking forward to working with you on progressing the projects and implementing the actions that have been identified. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll pass back to you.
Thanks, Johnny. We'll take the report as read and open it for discussion. Paul.
No questions.
Councillor Hartram.
Yeah, nothing too dramatic to say, but it's great that we're going forward and get that positivity out there that we're heading in the right direction. And it's a great thing to be doing, and just hope that we can get the momentum going sooner than later. That's all for me.
Councillor
No, thank you for it. I found it quite hard to read my play all the way through it, to be honest. So a clear summary when it gets released would be good. Yeah, I'm happy to endorse it. Just be good if it was a bit simplified.
Yeah, it was interesting reading through it. I guess it is a little bit, unfortunately, like there's just been so many attempts at, these plans, and nothing ever eventuates from them. So I think what would be really useful, because you've got some great stuff in here, would actually be now to start seeing, and whether that is possible for you guys to keep us updated with sort of summaries of, what that's going to look like in the next 6 to 12 months, what that might then look like in the next, up to 5 years, so, and that we get regular updates to actually see how all of it is actually progressing. Yeah.
If I could just respond briefly to that through you, Mr. Chair. Look, I think that is really, really helpful feedback, and I think it's going to be hugely important moving forward, because in one sense, going for a long-term horizon of 30 years shows that you're serious and that you're considering the long-term future, not just the short-term tactical moves that are required for the economy, which is great. On the other hand, 30 years increases the risk that it becomes a strategy that just collects dust, right? Because it's a long-term horizon. So I think what happens from here, the first 12 months are absolutely critical in terms of action, but that ongoing communication back to all partners, including yourself, I think is going to be critical. So no, I completely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. No, I'm all good, thanks. Thank you.
Basis, Johnny, thank you very much for that. I'll invite a councillor to move A, that council receive the report, and B, that council endorse the Taipa TV West Coast 2050 strategy. Councillor Cogan, thank you. Second, Councillor Neal. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate your time. And well done.
Thanks, mate.
Move on to the next item of the agenda, which is Hokitika Airport lease extension of term. It's on pages 28 to 50 of your agenda. And Mel Anderson from Destination Westland will present the report.
I'll take the report as read and just give a very quick overview of the situation. Currently, Airport land is owned by council. Destination Westland is previously Hokitika Airport Limited, has a lease with council for that airport land, and we sublease to tenants up there. That lease is up for renewal in June 2023. However, as part of our long-term strategy and being able to offer new leases as they come up, we can only offer a sublease to the extent of the current head lease that we hold. And at that point in time, this time it's only just over 18 months.
Things pretty straightforward, as I said, but Paul.
Yeah, straightforward, makes sense, but unfortunately we do advertise with the mystery commercial operator. I take it as a commission related.
Due to the fact we're in public forum, I can't comment on that at all. However, in a public excluded due to commercial sensitivity,
It's administrative, but it'd be nice to tidy it up. So yeah, thanks Mel for your work on it and the team here.
Councillor Hartwell.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Gary.
Yeah, just a question because it just, I mean, obviously it's something that's got to happen. Because also if you're wanting to continue to pursue any further subleases, people I'm sure aren't going to be too happy if they're only getting to sign an 18-month contract, like it makes it not very inviting to entice any other people up there. Is there still significant amounts of land up there able to be subleased? Yeah, so what are we anticipating with the lease extension years-wise?
So in the first instance, it's about operating the aviation sector that we currently do.
Yeah.
And we need that just to do our day-to-day BAU activity up there.
Yeah.
Longer term, that's part of the wider airport strategy and the master plan that falls in behind that.
Yeah.
We are making changes as we speak to that and are looking forward to presenting that to council in the future.
Right.
So just to clarify, the extension is asking for another 30 years.
Yes. I mean, I think that's just got to be a given, to be honest. Thanks, Mel.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Thanks, Mel, pretty clear. I'll invite council to move A, that council receives the report, and B, that council resolves to prepare an updated lease between Destination Westland and Westland District Council for the lease of the airport land. Councillor Cogan, thank you. Councillor Martin, those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Mel.
Thank you.
Right, move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the amendment to the significance and engagement policy. For those that are zoomed in, it's on pages 51 to 58 of the agenda, and invite Emma Ray to present the document. Welcome, Emma.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to take the report as read and ask if there are any questions about it.
Thank you. We'll take the report as read and we'll open for discussion. No issues. Councillor Martin.
Thanks, Emma, for the report. In relation to adding a strategic item or a strategic asset, can that be done outside of the annual plan and long-term plan process, or? I mean, we have to go through such a process to remove or dispose of a strategic asset.
No, I don't believe that we need to take this through a full long-term plan process. This essentially is just an administrative decision on the part of council as to whether you believe that items such as the IT infrastructure are strategic to the operations of council.
So if we were to remove it, say hypothetically next month, next year we meet and we say we want to remove that as an item, as a strategic item, would we be able to do that as an administrative resolution?
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear that.
No, it's all good.
The sound on my computer.
It depends on the actual asset itself. I mean, if you were looking at Three Waters and museum and those kind of assets, then yes, definitely. But with this being a back office item, it's not as got so much of a public interest. So for an administrative item like this, I would very much doubt we need to consult on that.
Sounds great.
Councillor Hartwell.
No questions for me, thanks.
Councillor Neal.
No, happy with the recommendation.
Councillor Cogan.
No questions.
And Francois.
Happy with the recommendation.
I invite the council to move A, that council receive the report, and B, that council adopt the amended draft significance and engagement policy, December 2021. Councillor Neal, thank you. Councillor Hartwell, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emma.
Emma.
Just a minor point on page 57, 2.3 refers to tangata whenua. It should be mana whenua.
Thanks. Thank you. Move on to the next item of the agenda, which is council representation. For those that are zoomed in, it's on pages 59 to 61 of your agenda, and the Chief Executive will report.
Thank you, Your Worship and Councillors. The purpose of this report is to advise that Councillor Kennedy has resigned effective of the last council meeting, advise our representation arrangement for the remainder of the triennium. The issue arises from a requirement to ensure that representation is fair throughout the district. In reviewing the representation, we obviously take into account the impacts, looking how close we are to the next triennium. So the fact that the resignation is within 12 months is up to council to make a decision whether they wish to fill their position or hold it vacant until the end of the term. Our recommendation, Your Worship, is not to fill it, and this is based on the fact there's a very short amount of time between now and next elections. There are 8 scheduled council meetings, and for someone to come in at a late stage and actually become fluent within the local government processes and understanding doesn't give us enough time to actually bring them up to speed. So our recommendation is not to fill the position and open up to questions.
Thank you. Paul.
Can I ask if the last election was there, how many candidates were there in the Southern Ward?
3 hours. 4, 3 or 4. Well, quite a 4. 5. Oh, sorry, 5. Sorry. 3 unsuccessful.
Yes. Was there much difference between the top 3? Right.
The top, notably, is the top person was Brian Kennedy, and he was some distance ahead of Ian Hartshorn, and then behind Ian Hartshorn, but not by much, was Brian Manera, and then some way back were 2 or 3 others. It's roughly how
So sometimes organisations will pull up the person who was closest to the last election. So that would be Brian Manera. Then that's great. I'm in 2 minds. I mean, I understand the rationale, but at the same time, given that we would be looking over this next 12 months at the master planning for Friends in more detail, it could be an opportunity.
There is still the ability for other councillors to support that region rather than just relying on one main councillor here partially. So we would expect that Lisa's worship was covering some of that responsibility with the councillor. The fact that the Master Planning Friends is also part of the joint committee approach, and we have both his worship and also Councillor Martin on that joint committee, as long as both there be representation as well. So there is some good representation in that space.
It would be good to have another local voice in for that issue, but here we go. As I say, I'm on two minds about it.
Councillor Martin.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks, Simon, for the report. I agree with the staff recommendation. I hear also where Paul's coming from in his views and acknowledge those as well. I mean, it is going to put an increased workload on all the elected members that are left, because we'll need to support Ian to ensure that they're actually, Ian can't attend every South Westland community groups meeting or, event, or so we'll have to probably do a bit more down south. I also like the idea of appointing someone. It would just have to be someone that probably had connection down there, but also had that experience, so it's not seen as a complete induction process. Maybe someone that's familiar to local government, but where do you get those names from? How do you run that process to appoint someone other than the next polling candidate, possibly? And has anyone asked? No, so we go ahead with the process of not filling it, and if the community, if we heard any feedback from any, I've heard nothing in terms of anyone asking for it to be filled.
Just to point out in the report, it does say that the community feels strongly that they do want representation. The council hasn't resolved to fill it. They can, by poll, get 10% of the vote, and we have to run by election. So there's 10% of the ratepayers are out there wanting to be filled. That is an option.
Councillor Hartshorn, you're the man at the moment.
Yes, I've had one person ask me whether Brian's going to be replaced out of everybody in town so far. I probably go with the council recommendations that it's not too far along, and I've got a group of Hokitika North councillors that can support me along with the mayor. So yes, that's sort of what I'm thinking.
Councillor Neil.
Yeah, especially being so far through the Canadian, I agree with the staff recommendation, and we just make sure that we do hear the voices from down here. Yeah.
Councillor Cogan.
Yeah, so a couple of things from me. I actually agree with, see, this is where I find it quite interesting and difficult on the council, because I know we came onto council elected under our wards, but as a council, we all make all of our decisions together over the whole of the Western District. So I don't see that separation of, because you're in the Northern Ward, you just make the decisions there, and the Hokitika Ward just make it there, and the South Western just make it there. So to me, one, I don't think at this point it is necessary to bring anybody else on board. But two, I do agree that, there will be, and I think it's necessary for us to share the load. I think that it's important for the South Westland people that they feel that they're still getting heard. So I think that maybe if we, can just sort of split that role over as many of us as we can and make a point of trying to get, down there when we can, if we come up with some sort of a plan actually around that, so that they also got some comfort in South Westland around what that might look like, even if we set up, like a plan of every, month or couple of months, one or two of us attend, some of their meetings down there. I also wondered about the possibility of, between now and next year, whether we also could hold one of our monthly council meetings down in that area as well, and also give them an opportunity to be able to come along and have a chat with all of us. I don't know if that's possible or not. These are just things coming to mind.
Council needs to see which you can change anything, of course.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to think of just ways of how, because I think it is important, and it's obviously, like you just wouldn't land that all on Ian, but we all make decisions regardless up and down the coast. So I don't think we specifically need to be living down there to know that the people are being heard.
I'm a bit different than all these. I think there needs to be representation down there, especially considering what the issues I've got down there right now. So I think personally that there should be a representative appointed or by-election run. So I don't support the recommendation. So.
Right. I'd invite the council to move the council receive the report, and B, the vacancy in the Southern Ward is not moved by Councillor Cogan, seconded by Councillor Neal. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Yeah, some advice here. We've got a community presentation booked for 3:15, is it? I had hoped to be further through the agenda, but unfortunately we're not. How about we move the presentation to now, have a cup of tea, and then carry on from there. Everyone comfortable with that? Yep. Okay. Right. We'll, what's next? Nathan and I are going to jointly do these presentations. Line's very important to the whole process, and think Nathan would like to lead off. The first presentation is due. It's crazy.
Good everyone, thanks for being here. The Lions Club of Hokitika and Western District Council have for a number of years worked together to run the Western District Civic Awards, and the Lions has a long history of running the Young Achievers Awards. So today we're recognising Civic Awards and Young Achievers Awards. So a bit of background: Young Achievers Awards acknowledge youth and young adults aged between 15 and 30 who are outstanding, exceptional young Westlanders. Nominees should be young people who are striving to improve themselves and their communities and are brimming with potential to produce a bright future for our district. The Young Westlander of the Year Award gives special recognition to honour and encourage our leaders of tomorrow and promote youth leadership. To be nominated, special young person, the nomination categories are in the fields of sport, arts or academic, cultural, community participation or other notable achievements. And we're very pleased to present the Young Achievers Award Brian McCarthy Trophy for Community Involvement today. And I'll hand it over to His Worship to read the citation around who is to receive this award.
The award goes to Lucian Bradley. Right. Lucian's been helping around the Hokitika community for a while. He's been helping with firewood, splitting, delivering when needed, Children's Day, and every other event you possibly think of. Each week he's made sure that there's been wood and coal bagged, ready for Lions to sell at their weekly fundraising store as part of the Cool Little Market. He's a kind, generous person who always goes out of his way to help, and that's a real compliment. It's well done. It's really appreciated, and this is the trophy that goes with it. So you might get two of those. So congratulations and well done. So go a photo. Guy's got a new shoes. Congratulations. It's great to see you.
And we'll get the trophies engraved, so we'll grab it there.
That's all right. That's all right. It wasn't a photo.
All right. Right. So now we move into the Civic Awards. So the Civic, just to clarify too, under COVID we're doing a couple of presentations. So this is the first presentation because of the restrictions in the chambers, and then we'll also do a follow-up presentation in the new year for the other recipients. The Senior Westlander of the Year Award recognises those aged 60 years and over who have made a positive contribution to our great district. This award provides Westlanders of all ages the opportunity to express their appreciation and admiration for the achievements of senior Westlanders. Nominees will have contributed to the welfare of our district through excellence in their chosen field. They will present a significant and positive image of ageing and be a role model to the wider community. Whether it be in business, sports, art, education or community involvement, people from all around Westland have been encouraged to nominate anyone aged 60 years and over for this prestigious award. It's not all from me. We're now going to hear about the recipient. So the recipient of the Senior Westlander of the Year Award arrived in Hokitika some 60 odd years ago. He served the local community in many ways. When he arrived in Hokitika to join the New Zealand Forest Service, he was a keen fisherman and so joined the Angling Club and soon found that he was drafted into the Secretary's chair. This was the first of many community positions. Colleagues at NZFS persuaded him to apply to join the Hokitika Volunteer Fire Brigade. He asserts that his selection was to maintain the Protestant Catholic balance in the brigade. However, with 34 years under his belt and a gold star on his chest, serving as training officer and peer support officer, he retired from active service, but is still a great supporter of the fire brigade and service and takes a great interest in the Western Industrial Heritage Park fire engine collection and display. He continued to provide peer support to the fire service throughout the West Coast, assisting brigades and members with all sorts of stress-related issues. Following on from this work, he was asked to join victim support. He did this for some 15 years, including a stint in Christchurch after the earthquakes. The restorative justice team on the West Coast has also benefited from his membership, and he's assisted with junior peer support at Western High School. He has also a full sporting background, playing squash and becoming secretary of the Hokitika Squash Club. He helped set up junior indoor basketball in Hokitika and played for Hot Shots and represented Westland. He also played and coached rugby, but his own sporting passion was golf. Typically, although he loved the game and reduced his handicap down to 7, he also was involved in the administration, became the longest serving secretary of the Hokitika Golf Club. He was also a junior coach, and he describes that as very rewarding. He's been a long-term member of the Hokitika Charter Club and was drafted into the RSA to assist with fundraising for their new build some years ago. He's still an active member of both organisations. He was invited by the Western District Council to be a member of the Hokitika Reserves and Environs Committee and was also a long-term member of the Lake Canary Scenic Triathlon Committee. At the Western Industrial Heritage Park, there are many volunteers who do a great job with one another, mostly senior males in the community. But this man stands out as the glue that holds it all together. He likes to make sure that things get done and will always pitch in physically or with words of wisdom if that's needed. He tells great yarns from a wealth of life experience. The kids and big kids who visit the Heritage Park love his tricks and stories. The membership and visitors are always top priority for this person, and in his own words, the Western Industrial Heritage Park is a play centre for geriatrics, and he describes it as his most enjoyable volunteer work. What I've just read out is a brief summary of the community involvement of Ian Gilbertson, but it's just part of his life. He had a very successful and well-respected career, first with NZFS and then the Department of Conservation. He's also a dedicated family man, providing help and support at home to his siblings, children, and their families. There are many unsung heroes in our community today, and the Western Industrial Heritage Park, Western District Council, and the Lions Club of Hokitika are really keen to ensure that Ian Patrick Gilbertson is recognised as the Senior Westlander of the Year 2021.
You've got to be seeing you got a dual.
I thought I was coming here to receive a grant from the council on behalf of the park. You have an expert project there. You sounded engineers last time.
It's exhibition made for the job. And
cast and brass.
Cast and brass. Congratulations, and couldn't really get it more for the person. I never thought I'd call you a senior.
Yeah, the years are flicking by. It's a bit embarrassing because obviously now I'm a real key member of the old fellas at the park and girl. And yeah, just so much work being done up there. It's just a privilege to be just part of it. So, thanks very much. Can we grab a photo?
Stand this way for a little bit and so everyone on the screen.
Oh, of course.
You
got to smile. Congratulations. Well done. Thanks.
Yep.
Oh, too many audio. Goodness me. Oh. This is a bit embarrassing. How do you present when you do maiden trophy the trophy? Well, I guess we just try it.
We're really fortunate this year, and Bruce will talk more about the trophy, to acknowledge a Westlander of the Year, and that's a person that has received this award based on overall prestige, someone that this honours the achievements and contributions of a very inspirational person. who's made a significant contribution to our district and makes us proud of our region and what can be achieved. The pursuit of excellence may be in areas of science, business, the arts, cultural, community service, sport, education and health. Their achievements have had positive effects on how we feel about our region and ourselves. The Westlander of the Year Award will recognise an individual who, through his or her achievements, has made an outstanding contribution to the well-being of our district. The person who's receiving Westlander of the Year has made 220 poppy bowls, one for each RSA throughout New Zealand. Using his craftsmanship, he designed and turned each bowl into magnificent pieces adorned with locally sourced pounamu. When he's not in his woodshed working, he's cutting firewood for the Hokitika Lions, selling raffles and helping out at various community events, and being a friend, someone to talk to, someone to receive advice from, and someone to support and encourage. The poppy bowl story is of a Hokitika woodturner who had the idea about 2 years ago to make poppy bowls for every RSA in New Zealand. And on a certificate of authenticity is written Anzac poppy bowls. This certifies that the Anzac poppy bowl is an authentic, original craft that has been crafted in Hokitika, New Zealand by master craftsman Jimmy Gordon. The bowl is being lovingly crafted by his hand and is the very symbol of respect, integrity, and the celebration of the wonderful lifestyle we have here in Westland today. It's a symbol that enables us to all pause, to take stock of all of the many thousands of lives that were lost during all wars. The bowls are part of a collection gifted by Tane and are made from New Zealand woods and native trees, including rimu, tōtara, matai and beech, all grown here on Te Tai Pōtini, Te Waipounamu, the west coast of the South Island. To date, over 220 of these bowls have been made for RSAs, maraes, churches, and they come in a myriad of shapes and sizes, just like each of us. Each bowl is made complete by the addition of a piece of pounamu at its centre, gifted by our local iwi members from the rivers of the West Coast, a very powerful reminder of the mana that pounamu carries. A penny has been placed under each bowl and numbered, a coin from the realm, a gift of thanks from us all. These bowls have no monetary value. They've already been paid for by all those who have given their lives so that we may all live in our lives in peace. There is a bowl number for each that identifies the native timber used for the bowl, who it's been gifted to, dated and signed by Jimmy Gordon, and finished off with, we will remember them. What a great and generous gift and guy that Jimmy Gordon is. Those 220 poppy bowls would have been worth over $100,000 if he had sold them. But no, he donated them and gifted them all in the memory of the many thousands of lives lost during many world wars. It's our combined pleasure to acknowledge Jim Gordon as the recipient of Westlander of the Year 2021.
Lovely wife who receives an award as well. And she's a very patient woman. Sorry?
No.
Right. I can't think of anyone I would rather present this to. It is, this is my last meeting pre-Christmas for my term as mayor, and I'm honoured that you're here, because when I first walked into your workshop and you said to me, I've had a God moment, I thought, oh, God, crackpot. And then it started, and he told me about all of the things that were happening with the bowls, and we went to his house. He said, come inside and have a look. And I'll be 3 or 4 there, all around the living room. And he said, come into the bedroom. I thought, it's a bit appropriate. But anyway, we went in, and right round the bed were bowls. In the spare room, right round the bed were bowls. And they were beautiful. Every one of them was beautiful. And he started to tell me about the way that timber, he'd get up in the morning, and the slab of timber would be lying by the shed. there'd be a bucket of punami sitting by the shed. It was absolutely fantastic, mate. I was actually very, very moved. Jim, you have to say a few words, but I'd like to present with that. Plus the award. Now, this award here was made by a craftsman in Hokitika, and he dropped it in some months ago, and he said, I want you to present this each year to the person that most deserves it in Westland. And so it's been sitting in my office and looking at it each day, and there are so many worthy people in Westland, there really are. But this year, there's no one more worthy than you.
Well, thanks very much, Bruce. Receiving this award, I feel as though I'm an Indian giver, because I gave it to you, Bruce, and it's come back to me. But however, I have plans for it. I'll put it in the Hokitika Craft Gallery and I'll sell it Saturday. So we'll make a few dollars so that we can pay for that Rebel Street pub.
Could you get a return address?
I'll give you a receipt, and that's all I think. But I'd like to talk a little bit about hobby bowls and that. And firstly is my lovely wife, Lita. How she put up with it for over 2 years. And I'd sneak them in while she's out working. And for some reason, she'd come in like this. There's another 2 or 3 here, and she'd have a go at me about it. I've got a few still left there, and she's asked me to take them off the table. But they're still going out progressively. And the last one's just on its way. It's being engraved now. It's going to the new bride. So, there's also the 212. It's actually a hobby bowl come lectern, and it's the Western High School presented with the stand and everything. It's been done there. So it is a privilege, and it's a joy actually living here on the coast. Being here in Hokitika, and the generosity of many, many folks here and businesses and outside. If I start naming them, I'll miss out a few of them. But if I lived in Auckland, Wellington or something, I'd never get this. And it's all done on a shoe street, my pension, and that's it. I did it on my pension. Lita doesn't know that. We're still living on grass and eating wheat bix, and that's okay. So thanks very much, Bruce.
Thank you, Lance. You can't do it. Because you actually
I'll get a hell of a telling off when I get home.
Easy. Thank you so much. Don't lose it. I'll need it next year.
About $100, generally gallery comes out.
John, a few seconds there and what have you. Oh, yeah, I'm telling you, I need 100 on you. Come on through, girl.
Can we get one of this and get it reviewed?
Absolutely. Yeah. And Beryl will be good. next item on the agenda is the COVID-19 position statement, and that's on those that have zoomed in on pages 62 to 66 of your agenda. And Tiara Cook will be doing the presentation. TC.
While I will take the report as read, I'd just like to add that in terms of the total version before you, you will be aware government shifted from the elimination strategy back in October, focusing more on minimisation protection in terms of defending people against the impact of COVID-19 or risk of COVID-19. Hence the position statement is for you today. Also, just to preempt, because we are in a public session, I'm not able to give any information in relation to the COVID vaccination of staff. I'm going to give that in terms of a public decision on that later on. And with that in mind, is there any questions?
Councillors will take the report as read and try going around the clock a different way. Francois.
No, I'm all.
Councillor
I have no questions.
Councillor Neal.
Thank you, TC, for doing a lot of reading and working out on our behalf on all this, because it's a constantly changing landscape, really, isn't it? Yeah. I appreciate the time that's gone into it.
Councillor Hartwell.
No questions, Your Worship.
Councillor Martin.
So thanks for the report, TC. I'm just curious as to our position around the country in terms of how people can engage with the library, for example, or libraries in their community, or swimming pool, or waiting in an airport terminal. So is there any sort of update or clarity or position that Westland's taking in regards to those things?
So at this stage, the discussions following risk assessments that we have done in terms of the activities that we have direct control over, and initially for our service, the library and customer services below, and if it was open to public, it would be the museum as well. In terms of risk assessments based on the current environment and how health orders may apply, and then also in terms of the application of the traffic light system, because there are no current cases in Westland or the West Coast District, we see that risk is currently being low. However, in discussions with staff, particularly for the library, we do have plans in place should that situation change, and it would be only at that point that we would be introducing vaccination certificate pass requirements. But what we didn't want to do is inconvenience people currently for the sake of not being inconvenienced, but we have recognised and using the library as an example that the risk were to increase, particularly the small number of personnel that we have. We would just need one person in there, and it's potential for the library to be closed for at least 2 weeks, so not a month. So we do have plans in place in terms of changing that status. The earliest that could potentially happen would be in the new year at this stage.
To clarify, at the moment, you don't have to have a vaccine pass to go to the library, access the customer service or the museum. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. No, look, it's this is also inconsistent. It's hard to keep up. In fact, I don't think the ones in Wellington are making up the rules. No, from one day to the next, no, what the rules actually are. So good luck navigating your way through that. The key, though, in my view, is compassion as well as safety, but compassion. That we don't fall into the trap of treating those who are not vaccinated for whatever reason as lepers. Fully vaccinated, by the way, just for the record. But
we should pass. I want to see it now.
But yeah, there is, and that tends to have come from the top, unfortunately, and to treat them as lepers. I just think that's really unfortunate. We have to rise above that. We still have friends, our neighbours, our brothers and sisters that are these people. For whatever reason, they're not vaccinated. Some have quite nutty ideas around it. I don't have a lot of sympathy with that, but there are others that have more genuine reasons why not. So anyway, compassion.
And I support that, and it's one of the reasons why we haven't included in the requirements for NCP's position statement, that it is a position statement as against a hardline policy, but it just gives it corrections, which is what we are aspiring towards. About making things more digital.
So I invite Council to move A, that Council receive the report, and B, that Council adopt the COVID-19 vaccination position statement. So moved. Councillor Cogan, thank you. We'll have a second in there. Councillor Hartshorn, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Chief Executive's quarterly report. It's on.
Please accept my apology.
Yep. It's on pages 67 to 152 of your agenda, and the Chief Executive will present the report.
Thank you, Your Worship and Councillors. Just when writing this report, it's probably the biggest CEO report I've written today. And just because there's so much going on, and we are scrambling to keep up, but we are making some really good progress in some areas as well. Just conscious that going into the new year, there will be a raft of projects still in flux, being completed, and about some about to start. So I'll take you through the report item by item, but not in a lot of detail, and open up questions at the end. You've heard the statement around COVID. COVID has played a significant impact and been a significant distraction for my staff for quite some time. The changes between the two different philosophies of managing COVID has challenged us in interpretation, as pointed out, and we have come up and working with other parties to have what we believe is the best solution at this current stage, and that will evolve as anything else changes as well. Our Three Waters reform, of us, His Worship will present a presentation from the challenge group following my report, and he'll give an update on that status. But just to highlight, we are doing work in regards to the new water regulations that have been tabled. They're currently in draft, out for consultation now. So we're doing a significant gap analysis between what we have and what we should have. Scott is engaged with some Cantabrians across the other side to support us in that endeavour, and we are leveraging some of that capacity now. So there will be some additional costs that will come through the annual planning process around water monitoring primarily and water sampling. So we'll have that very clearly for you outlaid in the future. The Three Waters capital works going extremely well, well managed and well project managed. A lot of small but important items being completed. And some of these projects will make our job better, understanding what's going on with our infrastructure in the future. The Hokitika Wastewater Treatment Plant, the governance group and the steering group have met several times over the last couple of months, making really good progress. So the last session of the steering group was looking at the various types of options for placement of a water plant, and what is in and what is out, and that will be then evaluated by our consultants for further discussions. Update on the provincial growth, provincial development unit funding. As you can see from the photo in the report, Butlers has progressed significantly. We expect that to be completed by the end of February. Cron Street will be done a minor extension of that funding application, but we still expect that to be completed by the end of February. All coasts are pretty well complete. 90k still remaining to be utilised for some of the maintenance requirements for that piece of infrastructure. Jackson Bay Wharf is completed. The remaining 40,000 will be used to upgrade the handrails along the concourse, or causeway, sorry. Hokitika swimming pool. We've had another slight snag in this project in terms of once again material supply, which will see the pool now reopening on the 1st of June. We've been working closely with, January, not June. Thank you for the correction. And work underway accordingly to keep that date locked down. Tourism infrastructure funding projects, Care Square toilets have been ordered. Still waiting for support from regional council regarding the access to the beach, and that's obviously tied up with other aspects of their work. And Jackson Bay visitors parking and also Frank Joseph parking will be picked up by Destination Westland. The public toilets at Moringa are also getting scope and obviously priced at this stage as well. Carnegie building going well. We believe we can now fit the parapet upgrades within the existing budget. So that is getting scoped up and priced at the moment. So that's still targeting to be completed by the end of March. Just a point on this, the lotteries funding for that project has been consumed, and we've written a final report to lotteries who have signed us off on that project. As previously stated earlier in the council meeting, both the Paki Waitara building and council headquarters were put on hold, pending further strategic direction from the council. Custom House should see that work start in January, and that shouldn't take too long to complete, so it should be finished by the end of February. We have been successful in funding for the West Coast Wilderness Trail enhancements, $300,000 contribution to a number of projects. Most of these projects are focused around safety of the trail. Some of the structures within the project need to be brought up to the right standard, and we'll proceed to do that. Parks and Reserves playgrounds, so it's Care Square playground. Concept scopes have been received from suppliers and negotiations underway. Our Watero playground, an option has been selected by the Watero community, and we are proposing, we're ordering that currently. Flag Facts project, almost complete, 7 still to be completed, but you will see, as you heard from Councillor Martin, that some of the flags have gone up over the last day. Hokitika lighting, so that the tambo has been lit up over the last couple of weeks, and now it looks stunning in the evening, obviously. And the lighting across Wild Street has been installed today. 2 new poles have gone up outside Hawkeys to include a welcome to Hokitika and Merry Christmas banner for Rebel Street is requested. That project is moving forward. The March trial date to the end of March is underway. The total budget allocated was 146. This is obviously with the new annual plan budget that's gone against it. To date, forecast is $115,000 towards that project. Bearing in mind that some of the footpath upgrades have gone against the transportation budget. Racecourse. So as I alluded to last council meeting, we have been successful in the first stage of the infrastructure acceleration fund for infrastructure development for the residential part of the racecourse. So we have a deadline of completing the next stage to be completed by the 17th of December. Their work is now complete and a submission will be made accordingly. We're looking at about $3.6 million of external funding to go towards making their development real. On other aspects of planning, so the type of 10-year plan, the last joint committee meeting, the project team highlighted the next 6 months worth of work, and you'll see the table that's in that shows that we still intend to publish the exposure draft in early January, with consultation going out February through to April, feedback on that consultation through to the committee, and then finalising the proposed plan for notification, and be notified by the 14th of July. Extremely challenging target, a lot of work still to be completed in that space, making progress. We have an opportunity under the community development for putting, so there's a new fund coming out of MV, which is a Wellbeing Communities Fund, which will potentially provide Westland $50,000 to a role, which will take the lead on a lot of aspects of community development, new coasters club, safer communities, multicultural events. So it will be with reporting through to Sarah Brown as community development lead. It'll be a subsidised project and it'll help us welcome people into communities. Some significant announcements over the last couple of weeks regarding stewardship of land. So DOCO is trying to look at changes to legislation to fast track the classification of stewardship of land. So we've engaged with Mark Christensen from Natural Resources Law to review the proposed legislation changes on behalf of the West Coast. So we've joined both Paulo Gray and the Regional Council in this approach to make sure that it doesn't meet our needs and also meets the community needs as well. And obviously doing a fast track review with stakeholders is underway as well to look at those. I'd just like to highlight the staffing changes we've had. We've had 3 departures from council, but we've had some new staff come in. Josh Neal has joined us as an IT supports officer. We have a new animal control officer, Claire Lomax, very bubbly personality and has a great customer interface. And Gary Cumbus has joined us as a building control compliance officer from Grey District Council. And Cindy Fleming, whilst reporting through the West Coast Regional Council, was our new emergency management officer and has started with a couple of reasonably quick events over the last couple of weeks and may have one coming up next week as well. Questions, Your Worship?
Perhaps the Whale analyst, I'll open it up for questions. If you wish to, if you have a question, raise your hand. Councillor Neal.
Just regarding beach access.
Yes.
The needs of driftwood and sand at the end of January.
Yes.
It would be great to keep that in mind.
It's unlikely based on how close we are to Christmas to getting that done. I think it requires regional council to take the lead. They'll be working with the contractor. So the contractor is West Rock. So that design work has been done through their projects engineer, Brendan Russ. So we're still waiting for that confirmation. But I'll do a follow-up with them to see if we can fast track it if possible.
Even maybe a temporary solution such as
definitely.
a sand
If I can't do
ramp
that, yes, we'll get the ramps cleaned up as is.
Yeah, gosh, so much in there.
Yes. It doesn't include all the existing projects we have on our own books as well.
The Cass Square toilets, please tell us that that's not going to be another orange one.
No, it's not. The proposal is to replicate similar design as Prince Joseph. So it's full berth toilets and it'll be on the western side of the playground along Wells Street.
Right, okay.
Easy access and centralised for everything. So it'll be foamed down.
Good. So speaking of the orange monstrosity, is there an opportunity that we could do something with that?
Sunset Point?
Yeah, artwork design.
I'll take that out. Same thing.
Well, I was thinking maybe something. Yeah, we've had this discussion about poaching item design, and this could be maybe run a design competitions.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, even I could paint it better than that.
And pre-painted, so.
From line 10.
Yes, that's all it's missing. That's good. Yeah, you do.
But I definitely could see an overlay being put on there.
So, the stewardship land. So you're aware, of course, that the Mana Whenua panel is working alongside this. So just to reassure, of course, that the Mana Whenua panel is part of the community. And it's also, it's also working in the interests of Poaching Naito, but also the West Coast community. So I'm just reassured on that one. Revel Street, so disappointed really that the budget blowout.
Facilities within budget.
Well, it depends on how you interpret that. I mean, we were promised when it was sold to us, it was $50,000 was the budget. And next thing it ballooned out to, well, it's $100,000 because it was then parked underneath the town revitalisation fund, something. And then we end up with the footpathing and the roadworks has gone under the transportation budget, and the same would have happened with the lighting, except it's empty. So I mean, $115,000, and it was it was meant to have been simply a trial, and but the trial for some people, with respect, wasn't really flash enough, and so it's needed more money, obviously, and for a trial, I just think it's a bit much. I think it's the whole thing's been an exercise in how not to do it. Disappointed, really. I think it would have been far better to have run the trial as it was meant to be as a trial, which was just to delineate on the ground how it would go, the traffic flow, etc., and not to have the decking and the lights that's there now. It looks great. I'm not saying oh, sorry. But of course it looks great because it cost $115,000. That wasn't the intention, as I recall things. And no, that was all. Thank you.
Any other questions? Notwithstanding, not the policy is supporting that. I just think it's awesome. And I'm struggling to understand what the fuss is about. Apart from the dollar value, I get that, but I like it. I think it's going to be quite cool. So I seem to be bucking the trend today and going the wrong way, but
just a point. So some of the, I suppose, the shop owners down there, now that the decking is in, you can see it. But they've also asked that they use it themselves in terms of their infrastructure, their seating that they want to put there rather than council tables. So they've asked us to remove those so they can put their own spin on it and actually pack it their own.
I reckon it's cool.
Do they have to have those approved through the council? Any furniture that they put out?
We would definitely like to veto is anything not kosher that goes in there.
You do one of the orange ones.
Yeah.
But yellow's fine.
Yeah, yellow's good. Yeah.
The only thing that actually I was going to bring up, and to be honest, it is about Rebel Street, was one, I actually do think that it is really coming along and looking really good. I am disappointed. I'm just not sure what happened to the budget around the lighting.
Just going back, the lighting came to the very late stage. It wasn't ever part of the original discussions.
Right.
That's part of the final concept, to recall. So we're not, when we sign off the trial complete, lighting can be included.
Right, and we could apply for potentially other external funding for that in it as well.
I'm not sure what bucket that would come out of.
Okay.
Council pay.
And because around the trial, and I guess I was one of the ones that did say, I just didn't agree with the trial being earlier like it was over the winter period. I don't think that gave us a good guidance on how it's going to go. I think once we can get the rest of this finished and get it, over the summer, the months, I think we'll see some real utilisation down there from lots of different people. And I think, to be honest, it's just absolutely lightened up a street that did look quite dull. And I think the shop owners will be quite surprised at how much more foot traffic they'll potentially get out of it. However, I did ask at the last meeting, the council meeting that we had, just around those costings and where we'd committed previous year's funds already had been tagged to that so that we could get an outline of that, and we still haven't received that.
Of previous year's funding?
Yeah, because my understanding is back as far as 2018, there were conversations and funding that had been committed to revitalisation in the downtown area and funds committed. So, yeah, I'd like to see, the breakdown of that. And I think it's important for the public to know as well that it's not, this money hasn't just sort of had to evolve from now, that some of it had been previously committed to. Yeah.
Councillor Hartwell.
Yeah, Simon, is there any estimated cost for the lighting in Rebel Street? Is there?
Around the 40K mark. That includes purchasing and installation, from recollection. I can get the detail, but it's around that.
Yeah. And is there a plan of what you're proposing for the lighting? Or
yes, there is. Yeah.
It's
part of the final design that's been supplied.
Yeah. Okay. I think once the lighting goes in and summer comes, it'll be the place to be.
Cool.
On a non-Rebel Street, the water upgrades. I just wonder if we could get a simple sort of summary of the status of each of those country water supplies. These the critics out there have said, Internal Affairs, I think, their report about the number of failures, etc. With E. coli and the like. Whereas my understanding is, of course, that you're always going to have that in country water supplies because you only have a bit of possum shit. The next thing you got E. coli, and then this is the nature of them. But if we can just have it, detailed for each from Kamara through, because Kamara just recently had a.
So you need like a water quality report, summary.
Yeah, it puts it factually. As it is, because I mean, on paper, I mean, you can make it sound like it's a great drama, but all Kamara and Fox Basin have been on boil water notices because they got possible put in the water.
Next about probably February council meeting with that the exercise.
Yeah, just as we move forward with this whole three waters debate to have it ready.
Yeah. What we would also do is identify the gap analysis and give councillors that assurance that this is what's required to get up to the future regulations become effective 1st of July next year.
Any other questions, Councillor?
Sorry, I just apologise for not coming to this before. Just another question around about the race course. So what is it exactly that Ben Smith has been asked to do?
From the first expression of interest, which was put together by Fiona for putting some infrastructure into the boundaries of the race course.
Right.
So part of the opportunity was that $1 billion fund made available through Kangaroo. So we had 2 weeks to put together a very quick application to ensure that we had both stormwater, wastewater, roading, etc., to the boundaries of the racecourse to enable us to do the future development on the residential side of the racecourse.
Yeah.
So from that stage, we've made it from, I think there's about 200 applications. We're the last 80 within the whole of New Zealand. There were some within Hokitika that missed out, 2 other applications that I'm aware of. So we have 6 weeks to pull together quite a more detailed deep dive in terms of what those costs could be, and also position statements from various developers in terms of what could be delivered in that space.
Oh, cool. So Vin's going to be able to hopefully pull this.
He's defeated that. So, and bearing in mind that this is still only a greenfield site, once we get the funding, then we will detail. We're not going to spend a lot of money doing details unless we've got funding.
Yeah.
So from then, we'll obviously deep dive in terms of what really the final design would be.
Yeah.
And obviously, we've also employed RSL consultants who have been supplied to us by Sports Canterbury to do the other parts of the development on the racecourse site, and looking at working with stakeholders and councillors, what that would look like. So the events, equestrian parks.
So who pays for that in the meantime? Will this be under this CONGO or a fund?
With some money we're using, or subsidised from Canterbury Sports, helping us do that feasibility.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so and is there, what about money aside for the grandstand and obviously the
to remove it?
Yeah.
So that's come out of the money that was transferred as part of the racecourse to council. So it was conditioned that that money could be used for the removal of unwanted buildings.
And when will that happen, do you know?
We're still waiting for the design, but that work can be contracted reasonably quickly out in the new year.
Yeah. And what about the tote building?
Tote building, interesting question. So we don't have, so we're trying to incorporate it into the future design as well, but we don't have a fund to bring up to what we would consider store building.
Because it's looking very sad.
It's looking very sad,
yes.
But it's about $300,000 to almost $400,000 of work to bring it up to the restoration, and it really comes down to council's appetite to spend that money on that building. We have offered it to be relocated to the Industrial Heritage Park, but they'd rather stay in situ. There's three options: move it, keep it, or remove it. Knock it over.
Just on the tote building, I mean, without the context of the racecourse, I don't know that there's a lot of purpose for it, to be honest.
That's the dilemma. Obviously, it's a Category 1 building now. We are looking to include it in some capacity in the future design. Unknown what that could be. It could be
ice cream shop.
An ice cream shop, yeah, exactly, or part of an elderly housing.
Just in relation to the housing development we've talked of, just to clarify, the council's role is only with the facilitating the infrastructure.
Yeah.
For a future development.
Yeah. So the proceeds from that will go towards all the other infrastructure on that site. So we'll look to have, hopefully cost neutral is the minimum target.
Simon, I think there's still a lot of community consultation before anything's set down. I think at the moment all of these ideas are still ideas, possibilities, but that still has to be, we have to get the community buy-in as well. And I do wonder, it'd be really good to go out to the community about the tote building and see what their appetite is to do.
That could be part of the annual plan process, but to do that, we need some funding in there to say we're going to save it or not. So, teams are going out to the community and doing a consultation process requires investment, cost of council time and money. Until we have future aspirations for the racecourse, that's premature in my mind. I'm not proposing to do anything. We could potentially just remove the verandas to make it safe. They are pretty well rotten through anyway for the borer.
Good wind. A good wind might take care of them too.
There are no more questions. I'll invite Councillor to move that the quarterly report from the Chief Executive dated the 9th of December 2021 be received. Councillor Hart, Councillor Neal, she's not here. And Councillor Curran, thank you. All those in favour? Excellent. Next, this report is an update on the Three Waters campaign and our the fact that we joined a small group of other councillors who were opposing Three Waters. I can confirm today that there are now 23 partners. Christchurch City joined us today, as did Central Hawke's Bay. They joined the Far North Council, Whangarei, Kaipara, Matamata, Waipa, South Waikato, Hauraki, Kawerau, South Taranaki, Wairoa, Napier City, Manawatu, Tararua, Grey, Westland, Kaikoura, Uranui, Waimakariri, Ashburton, Timaru, and Waimate. And there are around about another 9 or 10 councils that are going through a process to decide yes or no to join. So that they make up over 33% of all the councils in New Zealand and represent 1.4 million ratepayers. The objective of the group is to convince government, we're not trying to get rid of government, it's to convince government to alter its intention to proceed with legislation that will compel councils to transfer their Three Water assets into the ownership and or operational control of another legal entity without the agreement of the affected council. That's kind of it in a nutshell. The group has put together a set of policy, a marketing campaign. It's been collecting the public opinion, which is very strongly in support of opposing the current model. On the 15th of December in Wellington, the group is meeting. There's a possible meeting with the Prime Minister, it's tentative at the moment. A meeting with Doug Martin, who's the chair of the Local Government New Zealand Working Group. A meeting with a number of parliamentary parties, a number of parties. We're also meeting with Castilia, who are the experts in the field, to look at alternative models so that we can go back, rather than just saying, no, we don't want to do this, going back and saying, well, actually, there's potentially another way. There are alternative models. They all involve Iwi representation, and but until they've gone through the process, we don't actually know what they are. So that's it, kind of in a nutshell. Litigation has been issued against the Crown. Jack Hodder, Queen's Counsel, is acting for Timaru, Whangarei and Waimakariri councils. And a statement of claim was filed on the 19th of November 2021. The Crown's statement of defence is due before Christmas. In a nutshell, it's asking for the High Court to rule what legal ownership rights are of a council of its Three Water assets. And that leads into the fact, and the current law says they belong to us, and that leads into the next question, which is, if you're going to legislate to take them away, the question of compensation. So that's the basis of the claim, and it's got some interesting moves in many ways with interesting outcomes. So we've also written to the Auditor General about the advertising campaign to ask him to have a look at whether in fact the advertising campaign carried out by the Crown, which has already been declared to be not unlawful but unsatisfactory, with the Office of the Auditor General should investigate it further, because it's $3.5 million of investment there. But the group it's one of the most exciting groups that I've been able to sit around the table with, some pretty heavy hitters, and having Christchurch on board now is quite significant. And there's another major that's swinging in the wind at the present time. which will surprise everybody. Are there any questions?
Yeah, so have we got all of the coast on board, including Buller?
No, Buller has declined to join.
Okay, but we've got Grandmouth and
Yes,
Gilbertson District. So for us to, take this further, with litigation and, go through the court systems and stuff, where does the funding come from to be able to fight this?
Each of the councils put in either 10,000 or 15,000, which we approved here.
Yeah.
And in the case of Christchurch today, they put in 20,000.
Right.
Our aim is not to go to court
with
the Crown. Our aim is to identify what our legal ownership, what our legal rights are to the assets the people of Western have paid for, and the people of the other councils. That's the first step.
Yeah. So does this include? I mean, you're talking about if you have the opportunity to go to Wellington potentially next week.
That's already locked in.
That's locked in. So will that be will Nani and Mahuta also be present there when you're
2 weeks ago, the group led by Dan Gordon, Mayor of Waimakariri, wrote to the Prime Minister seeking a meeting on the 15th. It's wobbling around a bit, and we're hoping it'll happen. But in any case, we have 6 or 7 other meetings already locked in.
Okay.
Could I? I'm sorry.
Just going to comment. Just a couple of comments from me. Firstly, it doesn't hurt to test the government on this. They're not always right, as has been proven before. That advertising campaign is something that really does get up my nose, because it was just so demonstrably wrong and misleading. And I was pleased to see that they got nothing more really than a rap over the knuckles, I think, from the advertising, broadcasting, whatever it is. I'd be pleased to see that one kicked around a little bit more, because if the boot was on the other foot, I'd be sure that they would be taking the councils to task.
Pretty quick in that direction, aren't they? And it's a matter of there's a general feeling that the advertising didn't mention at all the fact that councils own the assets, and on that basis, it's not advertising truthfully. So we think the Auditor General should immediately launch an inquiry into the advertising that went on and give us a ruling. Any questions? Can I ask that a councillor move that the presentation on the Three Waters campaign be received? Councillor Hartwell, thank you, and Councillor Neal, those in favour?
Aye.
Right, next one, I've changed considerably due to some advice from some good people around the table, so it's much shorter than it was. And this is my final address for council pre-Christmas. This is my 5th one, and of course I'm sitting next year, so I don't get to do a 6th one. Someone else will have that pleasure. So as we move into another Christmas, I want to thank all the councillors and the staff for their combined efforts in what was again another unusual year. What became very clear is that having a clear plan that allows for change when the unexpected happens is an absolute must. And that's shown by the state of emergency events in recent times. Your councillors and staff were at the centre of each of these events. Cyclone Faye in 2018, Gita, 2019, the Waiho Bridge washing out, 2019, Mount Hercules. And then, of course, in February 2020, COVID arrived and changed things. And the Western District Council in 2017 made the decision to focus staff efforts on seeking government grants to upgrade toilets across Westland and to rebuild the Friends wastewater facility, which had been quoted between 10 and 12 million at that time. Because of the decision the council took to focus on rebuilding ponds and to seek government grants for Franz Joseph, the actual cost funded ended up around 2.2 million. And that included the construction of the Havel Wall, what Durham keeps saying it's a Smith called the Havel Wall, and it's resulted in the saving of about 7.8 million of council debt. Council also had a focus at that stage on the inclusion of iwi across all aspects of our responsibilities. I can tell you that that's been a winning strategy, and many of the actions and successes that followed have been made possible and only possible by the close relationships formed with Ngāti Waiwai and Makawhio and with their chairpersons, who are recognised as those with the authority to represent iwi in Westland. The COVID arrived the 28th of February 2020. Lockdown followed. Plan was circulated by Western District councillors and iwi in June of 2020 to once again shift the target, to focus staff then on attracting investment for Westland and other investment to stimulate our Westland economy, as the lockdown had destroyed the international tourism market, and it was very clear to a blind man that we were in hot water, especially in Fox and Frains, and had we not acted in the way we did, we would have been in hot water in Hokitika as well. We set out a vision, and the focus was on, at that stage, 50 targets. I call them targets, but every one of them had an incredible amount of work to get across the line. None of those projects where funding applications and advocacy were required could have occurred without the strong and experienced CE, supported by some extraordinary staff, councillors and iwi, with both the experience and the drive to actually make these things happen. It just couldn't have happened. Council was involved in 63 projects, either advocating for them or applying for funding or funding out of ratepayer funds. So to Simon and the staff, fantastic effort. It is appreciated. And like the IT people who are here today, the people who are making the funding applications are the heroes in behind the scenes. You never see them. But the work involved is massive. And Paul and Francois will be very familiar with it because you're in it every day. So in the last 4 years, Western District Council has advocated successfully for and delivered on a number of projects. We didn't get all the ones we targeted, but we didn't do too bad. So central government and other funding agencies, one way or another, have injected over 234 million into Westland, into Westland's economy. And that's why the township at the present time is so vibrant. Private investment has remained at an all-time high, and well over 61.5 million. And that excludes any projects under $1 million. Now, as we move into 2022 and beyond, I believe it's time for this council to refocus again on the way forward and what the risks are that we have ahead of us. We must remain pragmatic and be able to adapt to changes that come our way, whether it's COVID, weather, earthquakes, changes in commodity prices, and most of all, we need to represent the people of Westland. And in Westland, we are strongly for local democracy. The greatest risk that I see for this council and for our district is that when the money tap from government turns off, and I can tell you it will, this year, next year, the tap will be turned off. What will our projected employment opportunities look like then? You take away each of the projects that are underway at the present time that are government funded and have a look. It's scary. The reality is that it's employment that creates a community. Employment needs access to resources. And that's why the Stewardship Land Review is so important to Westland's future, both from a rating perspective and access to land which can be used to create employment. What are the real employment opportunities that we can influence an outcome? And I would ask councillors and members of the public and say, look, council itself going into the future may have a significant part to play in the years 22 through to 25. Are we going to live in a silo? Are we going to take a leadership role and ensure that our community remains resilient? How do we best prepare for the return of international air? How can we grow small business? What are our competitive advantages? All questions that need to be considered. As I said, that's the strategic direction is super, super important, especially going forward from now, because things are about to change again. So from Jeannie and I, have a great Christmas and Happy New Year. And let's focus next year on recognising the risks, minimising them, recognising the opportunities and pursuing them, and most of all, hold a steady direction for the people of Westland. It's my report, my last report for 2021. And I must say, thoroughly enjoyed it. If there are no questions, I request that somebody move the report we received. Councillor McCarthy, thank you. Can I have a second? Councillor Lee. Thank you very much.
Hey, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Right. Next one is item 10 on the agenda, and it's an administrative resolution. And it's the proposed resolution is that Council confirms its seal being affixed to the warrant of appointment as listed on the agenda and stated below. It's appointing Gary Edward Canvas as our building compliance officer. Moved by Councillor Neal, thank you. Seconded. Councillor Hartwell, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Now move to the end of the public meeting. Look, really like to thank members of the public who have zoomed in. It's that time of year, it's Christmas. I hope you all have a really happy Christmas and a wonderful New Year. And I'd invite a councillor to move that council move into the public excluded section of the meeting. Councillor Cogan, thank you. Councillor Neal, those in favour? Meeting will now be